Nicholas,
Hey,
it's
you want to start the show?
Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. Welcome to this moment of the
Yeah,
day of Wednes. Which planet is it? Wednesday? Do you know?
Wednesday. Wedness. Um,
I don't
it's
know.
it's a Greek god named Wedness.
Wedness.
Yeah,
He keeps track of all the wedness.
yeah. He's the god of like having squishy shoes after you step in a puddle. The Wedness.
Oh, squishy shoe puddle god. I wonder what we sacrifice for that.
Yeah, I think you just know that Wedness is listening
Yeah.
whenever whenever you're
Like
squishing in your
spaghetti.
shoes. We have a sound bar for the projector that we watch TV and stuff on. It's a Sonos, and it works perfectly in almost every app except I use this media streaming app called Plex, which I think you use too. Yeah. So for some reason on the Apple TV, when you go into the Plex app, if you pause it for more than about 10 seconds, it will shut off the speaker. So every time you pause it and you do anything else, you have to come back and turn the speaker back on manually. And we started making the joke that we're like, we say thank you, Sonos, or like, because we're like speaking to the god of audio equipment. And I don't know if that would really be Sonos, but it just sounds right, you know?
Yeah. I too have to do a weird wiggly something for the sake of audio. A couple ways. Sometimes if I turn on my theater system at the same time as the TV, when I select whichever, I have a Roku, when I select Netflix or Plex or whatever Roku device, I mean, whatever software I'm using, sometimes my theater would be like, nah, I'm out. I don't want to be your audio system. It just turns off for no good reason. And then now I have to trick Plex in order for it to play in surround sound, things that are in surround sound. I have to like unclick a box and go find a subtitle or something, and then it reloads the thing and it's like, oh look, this is in surround. I'm like, yes it is. Oh well, but it happens. At least it's the only program that doesn't default to stereo, because I have an older surround sound system. I guess they're fancier new formats. Dolby Plus, I think, is what Netflix and those use, and my system's like, oh, I've got all these speakers, but I don't speak of that language.
Yep.
Anyway, okay.
You want to start the show? Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Enlightened Couch Potato Show. My name is Nicholas Rave. This is perfect. Nailed it.
Yeah. Ooh, I had almonds earlier. So this is Adrianne Gunn
good
joking on some almond debris that just decided to be in my throat right then.
And so I'll tell them what we do here so you can cough and drink water. In this show, we explore how to watch movies and TV for maximum psychological and spiritual development. Mostly we do that by talking about how to put yourself into a deeper state of trance and openness while you're watching things, and how to read more personal messages from what you're watching. And it's about, to me, making use of the time you know you're already going to spend watching movies and TV. So you might as well make yourself better by setting that intention. So we actually have 3 movies that we watched and we have not discussed. Both of us watched and we have not discussed. I feel like, if you're cool with it, I'd like to start with your suggestion, because I literally just watched it.
Okay. Oh, just like right now?
Just.
Oh
yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Oh,
I still feel like very teary and emotional. So you go first, and then.
That is fair. Okay. So it's been a few weeks, and we sometimes give assignments now. Oh, so I'm not sure how I remembered that this movie was important to me at some point.
Yeah, I wanted to know what's the history. What's your history with this movie? I'd never even heard of it.
Yeah, this movie is called Power of One, and it might have "the" in front of it.
The Power of One. Yeah,
The Power of One. And I think it was put out in 92, which puts me at what? 12 12 or 13, something like that. The lead in it eventually is Stephen Dorff. Okay, so I want to tell you what the synopsis of the movie is. It is a movie that chronicles the life of this young man, this young boy. It starts in technically pre-apartheid South Africa, and he's an English boy, and a lot of challenging things happen in his life, and he is apparently on a spiritual quest. He is called to help shift the culture in South Africa. It's okay. When I was watching this movie, I watched it last night. I sobbed and shivered so much because apparently this movie is so much a part of my DNA that I realized while I was watching it, the first person I dated looks like Stephen Dorff in this movie. I was just like, oh, apparently I did that. Good for me. And just there were so many moments. Now I've told you and you watching that I have this like music trigger that musicals tend to grab me and make me sob before I even know what the heck I'm crying about, or they're not even in the storyline. This movie's soundtrack is also part of my DNA, such that my body is remembering, and it starts me sobbing, and I'm trying to sing along, but I like try to gut out it's not a musical. This movie is not a musical, and African music and polyrhythms are a big part of the soundtrack and a big part of what's going on. Also, boxing is a big part of what's going on, and I grew up watching stand-up comedy and boxing, so it's part of my DNA. It's like cellular, how I relate to the world. My roommate was cooking dinner in the middle of this movie in the kitchen, and I was just ugly crying on the couch, scene after scene after scene. And it's funny in 90s, so there's a way in which it's dated, but it's a very emotional and poignant movie. And I don't know, why do I love it so much? So I was laughing at myself because it was from the 90s, and I have had a lot of childhood trauma. I've been joking a lot lately about how, any one of those things I would have traded and still had a fascinating and interesting life, capable of wanting to help other people and have empathy for other people's challenges. So much happens to this guy, to this kid and this young man.
It's relentless. It's really cruel. Like, they're just like, this isn't based on a true story. Why are you so mean to this guy? That's kind of one of my thoughts.
So I was thinking, like, why? Very strangely, we watched the movie with the two lions. I remember feeling, because I was a Leo and like, oh, lions, they're awesome. I remember having that same empowered sense of like, here's music, here's Africa, here's boxing, here's this young boy. And I growing up related to young boys a lot because I grew up as a boy pretty much. So I actually really wanted to be the middle kid. They have three actors play this character, and I just really related to that middle kid a lot. And I just kept laughing because I'm like, this movie is just as depressing as Roots, which was a really important series to me at the time, and Color Purple, which was really important to my family. Like, our family watched tragedy as like a symbolic, inspirational thing. And this is that kind of story of a kid who has a really, really, really rough life and then does something with it. I was just sort of laughing at how depressing it is, but that's oddly just my version of empowering, apparently.
Yeah. It's a little bit Roots meets Karate Kid.
Yes, and no one knew they wanted that movie.
You know, it's the director of Karate Kid.
I didn't know
he
that. He
directed
actually.
2 Rocky movies and 3 Karate Kid movies and this.
Holy crap. Okay, so if we compare then Daniel San to this kid.
Yeah, this kid is
This kid has a bit more fortitude
and
actual challenges. Daniel San is a very well, he's just, I guess he's supposedly a poor kid in a wealthy neighborhood, but he's super okay and doesn't have a lot of resources and really grumpy about it. And this kid actually has traumas that make sense to me. Not that it's nice to compare, just
he's also trying to do something for someone other than himself. And Daniel LaRusso is kind of a selfish little prick.
Wow.
That he's trying to take care of himself and get the girl. And it's in that way the morality of the Karate Kid is a lot more selfish and individualistic. This movie is at least in its spirit is trying to be about doing something. It's about other people. And I did find, like, let's solve racism with punching to be an interesting I mean, I think people have tried to do that in movies before.
Right.
But I mean, it's not just you. It's not just that this movie is in your DNA, because I started crying in the first, I don't remember, like, he has so many mentors. You don't get away with having 3 different Obi-Wans in a story normally. And each one you get to go, oh, I care about this person. And then usually they get ripped away from him. But they're all great. Fucking Morgan Freeman, in like one of his perfect older magical mentor character. And then the guy who plays the German, I don't remember his character name. I've always wanted, I don't know why, every time I see that actor, he always plays this like very strong and I don't know, stalwart German Jew usually. and usually a scientist of some kind. He's been in lots and lots of movies. But I've always thought if they were ever going to make a biopic of Viktor Frankl, that's who they should have play him. Like, that would be an
Mueller-Stahl.
That would be an amazing movie to do Man's Search for Meaning as a movie with him in it. I think he's a little old now, probably. That was a long time ago, and he was already pretty old.
Yeah.
But then, so the fighting was 90s, let's say. The boxing. It's funny what we won't tolerate now. Yeah. It's funny the standards that have gotten raised with, I mean, even just movies like John Wick, but like even Rocky, if you go back and watch it, the fights are, if you know anything about boxing, they're really hilarious.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
And then you contrast that with a movie like, did you see Southpaw?
Yes.
Jake Gyllenhaal trained for freaking 9 months, with real boxers to train for that movie. He got legitimately okay, not like world class, but good enough to pull it off. And that's what we want to see. And these like wide sweeping, it's funny to see that. But the movie hit me in a few different parts, mostly stuff to do with the mentors, the moment about, finding all the answers you need. Like, school teaches you what to think but not how to think, and you'll find all the answers you need in nature. That was beautiful. And then all the stuff about myth, like that just being woven in, I felt like that was a little underdeveloped. That this movie feels like it had some deeper concepts that they didn't really flesh out fully, but I wonder if that was in the book. There was a book. It's an Australian author who wrote a book, same title, and this was developed about 3 years after the book came out. So
now
I wonder,
read that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I had no idea that was a book. Oh my.
The myth stuff was really cool. This idea of like they kind of touched on, but we don't even believe this. Yeah, but we can still use it and get people to believe in something. Like that stuff got me.
Yeah. And what you're talking about is the idea that there's this kid, this English kid, who is set up as there's this myth about a rainmaker who's going to unite the tribes, and yeah, he ends up being put in that position of being that whether he is or isn't, he becomes that uniting force.
So what are your thoughts on the whole white savior thing?
That was the only thing. So after I'd already sobbed a bunch on the couch at the end there, I was like, well, so handfuls of my friends going back and like watching this now are going to be like, oh gosh, yes, we just need a white savior movie. And it would be really, really challenging. First of all, white isn't the same white in South Africa in the 1940s as we think it is here in the US. So essentially, on one hand, if you actually watch the movie in the context of the story it's actually telling, and you look at it as something being made in the 90s, where the movement towards actually like getting rid of apartheid is underway. You're just, I mean, the movie comes out like 6-ish years prior to apartheid going down. I think late 90s is, I'm guessing, because I don't remember that well.
It's 96, I think.
Is when apartheid ended? I
think so.
Okay. So it's in the thrust of the rest of the world and things shifting and actually happening. And it actually only goes into place, 40 something? Like it's, that whole system was created and it was new and it was created. Apparently.
Wait. When did it officially come to an end? Come on, Google.
Okay. You find that. So, so apparently the English were there and then killed a bunch of the Dutch who were the Afrikaners.
And and they set that up in the story too, that he was about to be killed, or they were strung him up because of his race. So they were establishing he's already been oppressed in his own ways. But then in this other context, he's not, for a variety of reasons. Yeah.
The English are seen as evil and the Afrikaners are saving that region. So he's not the same white that we think of as white here. And in the 90s, it makes sense. It makes sense to have other people in the US give a crap about things going on in South Africa to center it around a white character that theoretically they can relate to, because those are the people who are sending money and that sort of thing. Like, I don't know why this story was specifically told or written. And
alleviate white guilt.
But I don't know, maybe. So it makes sense for the 90s. I don't know why Morgan Freeman's character would have also bestowed. I mean, it's weird because we're still in the battle of saying that racism is really for white people to dismantle. That's their gig. It's their job. So that's a perspective I would utilize of actually someone who speaks all of the languages of these different tribes and can utilize this myth. Potentially this person has the most agility also in this system.
If it's about trying to influence people who are the oppressor to shift their perspective, then the protagonist should probably look like them. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people would reasonably make an argument that there's whole white savior thing, and then there's other perspectives.
I loved it. I mean, I you know what the thought I had is we're spoiled now. I would love to see this as a mini series, adapt the book into. I wanted more. Like the romantic relationship was oh, we saw each other twice, and then and like there's not enough. And I imagine in the book that's much more fleshed out, and then it makes sense why you meet somebody and you see them for 5 minutes of screen time and then they're taken away. Lot of narration.
Yes.
I'll say, like, wow, I didn't know this was going to be an audiobook set to pictures.
Right.
Adorable freaking little boy. The little kid was so,
Oh my God.
so cute. And
Yes.
I was going to say the middle kid, because the protagonist grows up throughout the movie, the middle stage, he did a good job with the boxing stuff. And I was like, it's gotta be really hard at however old that is, like 12, 13, maybe.
Yeah.
To do the conducting part. Like to jump up and down with your hands like that and like conduct a huge group of singers. Like, you know enough about music to know that in order to conduct, you have to like hold the attention of everyone. And if you like, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but if you tell a choir or band or someone who they know what they're doing and you substitute a fake conductor, like an actor who's doing it, and if you're one of the musicians, it'll throw you off. Like, you'll be like, oh, fuck. Because you're so used to like, oh, right, I follow that's what syncs us all up. And
Right.
He did a pretty good job with it. I don't know, it's pretty white bouncing, but
Sure. Well, he's got to keep time somewhere and he's got to give direction somewhere else. That is the job of the conductor.
Yeah.
Occasionally the cue is an eyebrow lift, and sometimes the cue is a finger.
Yeah.
And your legs are keeping the time for everybody. But then with syncopation, fuck.
Apartheid was 1990.
When it ended.
Yeah.
So apparently the movie came out after.
Mhm.
Aha. Okay. Look at me being
Also,
wrong.
Daniel Craig's first role ever as the fucking horrible Nazi character.
No.
Spoilers, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. What an awesome first explosion on screen.
I had no idea. Like, I didn't maintain memory when he came out onto the scene doing other stuff that he was that guy in this movie. When he was on screen, I'm like, oh, no.
Yep.
Villain. Yeah. I'm glad it was affecting even now. I knew I was shivering and sobbing on the couch because it meant a lot.
It hit me hard, like multiple times. Like I was like, but it overlaps. Can we change gears and go into Rain of Fire?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like 2 thumbs up, like 5 stars, 4.5 stars. It was pretty good.
One of the things, actually, before you go, one of the things that I think about this story is that there's a way in which there's always an opportunity to become your better self. That's the thing. I kept thinking about in my family, we've gone through different phases, at least my mother and I specifically, about whether we wear our scars as a badge of honor and how we hold that. And there's always opportunities for learning, and there's always opportunities for growth, and there's always opportunities to help other people. And I think that the story, I think that's one of the things that's most powerful for me, is just recognizing.
I think it's cool to, like, what are the lessons you take away from this? So for me, I think the line that the love interest shares, when she yells at her dad, "I won't hate like you," that sums up a lot of what this is about. It's like, no, I'm going to do what's right, even if it's not going to work out well for me.
Right.
So that, to shift gears into one of my favorite, very not well known, I think 2000s action movies. And I wanted to just overlap these two, because a lot of what hit me in the Rain of Fire movie and in this one, and I've become aware that one of my emotional triggers in a positive way is heroics. And I've started thinking about, what does that mean? like true heroics. And there was a couple of examples in Reign of Fire that really, there was several in Power of One too, but I'll set up Reign of Fire. So Reign of Fire is, somebody said, how can we make a movie about dragons and set it in like grounded modern times? How would that work? And the premise of the movie is one of my favorite things about the movie. It's just this idea that these people are mining weirdly underneath London.
Yep.
But they're mining and they come across this cave system. And it turns out that there are dragons living underground, dormant for thousands of years. And they come out and they breed like fish, like incredibly fast. And they eat ash. So they want to burn the whole planet to the ground. And this is a cycle that they go through where they burn everything, they eat everything, then they die out, they go into hibernation, life comes back, and they do it again. That's such a cool concept.
Yep.
And then how they manage to get the heroes in a freaking castle so that they can have like all this imagery of like castles and horses and dragons, but it's all realistically and believably, for me anyway, set in modern times. So that's the setup. So what are your thoughts? We'll pass the mic back and forth on this one.
Yeah. So
had you ever seen it before?
I had not, and I hadn't heard about it at all. And
is this your jam? Did you like it?
It was pretty groovy. I was kind of into it. So one of the things that happened, so it's the same sort of deal where a young boy, the adventure starts with a trauma and a young boy. So the dragon comes out from under the construction site where his mother works, and so young boy loses a parent. That's the beginning of a lot of hero stories. And then
the world falls apart. So you can imagine he probably had, similar to our other protagonist, a series of tragedies that fell after that.
Yes. And so I think it's here's an interesting theme that comes up. So the idea of what is the heroic thing to do comes up for me with this movie. So, we get a bunch of news about the way in which the world is kind of destroyed. And we find him older running a colony of people in this castle. And they're doing what they can to make sure that they have food and keep each other safe and teach these young kids and take care of each other. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So on one hand, the heroic thing to do is to stay safe and stay secure and keep people together and that sort of thing. And then there are other theories about what's to be done at that time. A bunch of people trying to leave, strangers showing up who have weapons and they have an idea and they have strategies for keeping people safe. And I think what's interesting, so it's just Christian Bale is the protagonist here.
Pre-Batman, by the way.
Yeah. 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Gerard Butler, Matthew McConaughey is in here.
Matthew McConaughey, like you've never seen him before.
Dirty and tattooed.
Matthew
and
McConaughey
buff.
as like American Viking. Like he really pulls that off. It was great. And I loved his character.
Yeah. They didn't have enough light. They didn't have enough light on his scenes. Like it was like the most fit he's ever been in physique and the least visible he's ever been. It's like, no, what? Where's the brightness?
Down lighting, overhead lighting. That's what we need. Come on, folks. Put the torches above so we can see the pecs. And
and there's like dragon tattoos. There's like specific details going on in there, but we can't see that because it's so covered in ash and dirty.
There's a lot of depth. I like how dirty the movie is, and I like how lived in the world feels. So I like your point about what is the heroic thing to do. Yeah. And it turns at some point in the story. But there was a couple of moments. So I'm gonna spoiler a little bit here. So there's a point when this group of people from the colony disobeys Christian Bale's orders and goes to gather food before it's ready. And they attract a dragon and it burns all the food. The first moment that really got me was when Christian Bale shows up to save them after they just destroyed all their food, disobeyed his orders. And that was the moment when this thought popped into my head that I'm like, man, what breaks my heart open when I'm watching something is that kind of, yes, I know I should be mad at you, and I am, but I'm still here and I'm still going to rescue you because it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
That is so, one of the moments that captures this the most, which I may have talked about this before, for me is in the final Avengers movie, the Endgame, when Captain America, when Thor and Iron Man and Captain America are all fighting Thanos, and Thor and Iron Man have been taken out of commission, and Cap has been beaten to an edge of his life, and he's holding his broken shield. And he gets up and his arm is cut and he tightens his shield. And there's this shot where the camera pans out and it's Thanos and his entire army and Cap just by himself standing there.
Yeah.
That to me is like, why do you get up? That's heroic to me. That because this is the right thing to do. And there were several moments in the movie that hit that for me. There was the part when Christian Bale went out and the guy on the motorcycle got killed and he had to put the thing down to like save the people who were jumping out of the helicopter. Yeah. That was another moment that really hit me as like, okay, he's gonna, and that was when he sort of proved himself to Matthew McConaughey's character and why he later was like, okay, I trust you to come and help. And then the end of going there and going, I'm gonna go take this risk because it could save everyone.
And it's an interesting thing because it's not as though, so in different points in this movie, it's almost as if Christian Bale is actually using the strategy of waiting for dragon slayers to show up. There's a lot of points where I think he's expecting that it's someone else's job, that his job is to protect people and stay safe.
Yeah.
And figure out how to maintain and hide. Like hide is the best. Right. It's the flight. It's flight is a strategy. And in so many different instances, other people are the ones that go out and they try to fight. And I don't know if he's like, and he's totally willing to let other people run off and do things. And at some point, he's got to be the one that puts himself on the line. And it's not that, I think he was willing to do so he puts in this thing to triangulate radar map or whatever, because he was close to it at the time. Like, it's not that he wasn't being heroic in these choices. And it wasn't his first instinct to go out and fight himself for most of the movie. And I think that's
he was very resistant to it. And I think that was your point about what's the heroic choice. And I feel like it shifted at one point, and it shifted after he lost a lot. He may not have wanted to go at all had things not happened where he lived. I enjoyed it a lot. It was really great the second time. I don't think I'd seen it since it came out, but I remember watching and being like, this is like really good, and nobody talks about it.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like the pirate movie where you're like, what? They made a big fucking dragon movie in modern times with these actors, and I've never heard of it. How did that happen?
There's also some great special effects if that's a thing you pay attention to. My favorite shot, and it may be one of my favorite pyrotechnic shots in any movie ever. So you remember the caravan at night?
Yeah.
When there's just there's a tank and a bunch of trucks, and then one pass, that shot, if you stop and look at it, the way they put it together, a lot of it's real fire and there's real people jumping out of the way, and then they mix in CG with it. It's so well done. I think it was miniature, but it was like bigatures, so they were like cars that are like big wheels, that size of cars. So they weren't like little tiny, but then the fire was huge because they were still pretty big. It was awesome. I love the couple of shots like that where you're just like, it's awe-inspiring and terrifying, and really shows how powerless you would be against these things.
It does remind me of Ghosts in the Darkness in the sense that these creatures are actually fucking vicious. And there's not I don't recall feeling a whole lot of like a hope. Like there was some sort of leverage that we suddenly had. There's at least one thing that occurs. I'm not going to ruin it, but one point of leverage that they figure out, and that's how the movie goes. But boy, I don't know who I would be in that situation, honestly.
They start you really low and then they make it worse before it gets better. And I like movies where you're like, how are they gonna get out of this? Like, this is so impossible. And then if it's believable when they get out, you get that sense of satisfaction. And I felt like it was great.
I mean, my curiosity is, maybe it's the children that save these people, because the children are entertained. Like, there's scenes where they're entertaining and teaching the kids, and maybe that's what they live for. I'm just very curious, when you like don't have a lot of food, most of the world is destroyed, what amounts of life show up in that life that makes people keep going on. And I think maybe it's just like our reptilian brains just so wanting to live that on some level we don't have choice.
I think that's part of it. I think it's also, we get used to things. Like, you get, like, even living in a war zone, like, I know it is traumatizing still, but you also acclimate to things that you're around a lot, and especially the kids. But I think also, like, survival of the species is like a pretty deep urge and drive. I mean, there's reproduction as one thing, but if you all of a sudden start really believing my reproductive capability is the survival of the species, I imagine that becomes a pretty strong urge to survive. Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, right on.
Any other thoughts about that one?
No, I don't think so. Wait, I did I write down notes? I knew that because I was watching it on Not the Day. Rain of Fire. Oh, yeah. My first thing is you can't run from your quest. My sense was that he kept sort of running away from fighting what was going on. It was
very poignant, I thought, that he was like literally the one that found the dragon in the first place. And like, obviously that's very fantasy, coincidental story writing, but it's poetic because there's something there about, oh, it's me. I am the one who has to go and do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's cinematic, but also maybe that is the point, that when a tragedy strikes and you're there, when you're the first person there on the scene, it's probably your battle. Right. And unfortunately, I don't know, if we just use it as a living metaphor for our own healing. Yeah. The I don't know, the situations, the challenges that began with us probably need to end with us too.
Well, you know, they didn't emphasize it much or playing it up, but you think about, that was literally the dragon that killed his mother. Yep. That he had to face at the end. So talk about trauma. I mean, like, your mom dies in this terrible thing, and then the whole world falls apart, and then all your life you're trying to keep people safe, and then you have to go and face that thing yourself. Yeah. I
mean, it's literally the metaphor for all of our childhood traumas. Yeah. Are the dragons that affect and destroy and rampage the rest of our lives. And we can get used to it. Yeah. We get used to living that way. but at some point we're going to have to slay that dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, and in that way, this was dragon stories generally are like the knights stories, and knights going off to slay a hero, going on a quest and an adventure, and this plays into that in a modern setting incredibly well.
Yeah, so essentially, one could decide to watch this knowing what their own traumas and dragons are, and just allow the dragons to be that, and allow all the characters that show up to assist that journey of becoming brave and facing that at the end.
Yeah, I definitely want an inner Matthew McConaughey to help me on my quest.
All right.
Definitely. Do we want to do the other one real quick?
Yeah. Okay.
We'll get them all three.
Man who knew too little. Here.
So I'll let you take this one again.
Yeah, you've brought it up.
I will, since I was the one who, whatever you want.
I think I got it. So Man Who Knew Too Little. Although I just forgot Dude Man's name.
Bill Murray.
Thank you. Bill Murray plays an American brother. He goes to visit his brother in, again, are we in London again?
Yeah, I think so.
It's all English themed today. Apparently. So he goes to visit his brother in London. Now he is a very quirky character. We get that sense right away. He's potentially maybe a little lonely, not necessarily successful, but sort of game to meet people, and just
a little bit lovable, just lovable enough.
They start him out where he might be lovable or he might be really annoying.
Yeah, you can't quite tell. It might be What About Bob almost.
A little bit. So his brother, not Kyle MacLachlan, but the other guy.
I don't remember his name.
Well, his brother, Gallagher, Peter Gallagher.
Oh,
sometimes I swap those two guys. Don't know why. Peter Gallagher is his brother. His brother has a very important meeting with the Germans, businessy dinner. He's trying to show off, but his brother is showing up unannounced on Bill Murray's character. It's his birthday. He's like, for my birthday, I'm going to go visit my brother without telling him ahead of time. And so Peter Gallagher and his wife find something for him to do to keep him busy for a while. And so they buy him tickets to this really amazing new theater process that's like Theater Live or whatever. That's like they're pretending to be real. So you go to a phone, you answer the phone, and then you enter the scene of this live.
You go on an adventure.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be your acting and role playing, and they'll kind of coach you along in what to say. But the idea is, if you're game, you just go along on this adventure and you get to experience this heroic journey.
Yeah.
Except, yeah.
Except it turns out that instead of being part of the live show, shenanigans are going on, and he thinks it's a show, and he actually goes on a spy adventure mystery.
He gets a phone call from a real secret agent being like, go to this address, and the woman has the bag upstairs, something like that.
Yes.
And the letters, Spencer. And so he ends up bumbling his way through this top secret James Bond spy adventure. And I find it delightfully hilarious. And it's a good example, I think, of Bill Murray's attempt to subtly weave in his sort of Buddhist spiritual philosophies around the fool. And around the idea of like, he doesn't know the stakes.
Yep.
And so because he doesn't know the stakes, he doesn't feel any concern. He thinks that he's playing a game when everyone else thinks it's real. And that gives him this kind of impervious confidence and aptitude. And obviously a lot of it is played up, but there's some truth in there that I think there's other examples of that. Like, what's the one with Peter Sellers? Garp, World According to Garp. Is that Is that Peter
Maybe.
Sellers? There's one where he plays a very even Harvey with
Yeah.
James Stewart. um, that's a little bit of that bumbling fool character who ends up being the wisest one of all, which is a tarot thing. In I think when did we talk about this before? It was another movie.
I do recall that we mentioned the Fool as an important tarot card. I don't recall which movie we were talking about.
I don't either.
I do know that what I took from this movie was that this is an example of what happens when you live life as though it were a game.
Yeah.
And the power of the power of yes and as a philosophy. Yes and saying yes to what's going on, just dropping in fully, being playful and earnest, and just living as though we're in because we're in a dream. Because what's interesting is everybody already, I mean, they always have their own perception about what the stakes are, what's going on, and what the intentions are. I mean, even in a scene, everybody has different operating intentions and motivations for something. Even if you theoretically have an agreement that you're in a play and in a scene, that's kind of the cool thing about being an actor.
Yeah.
And I've been for a lot of years wanting to make more of the acting process a guiding principle for my life.
There's a lot of valuable principles in there.
Yeah, entering into a new scene with a new eyes, new openness, responding with whatever's happening in time, and playing as though it's a game, and that the stakes are the discovery that's happening next, and moving with it. That was the thing that I loved about this movie.
That playing as though life is a game thing, it resonates with me when people say, "No one gets out alive." Like this thing called life is a deadly game and no one gets out alive. And there's something about like what's the worst that could happen? There's something valuable about being able to go, I don't feel the same stakes that everyone else does. Mm-hmm. And that's easier said than done. But I think it's something you can actually consciously work towards, to feel like you're not as concerned about you're not concerned at all about a lot of things that other people think are really important, but more and more you're less and less concerned about the things that stress other people out. And
and it almost operates on this idea that the universe is a friendly universe. It's he is living in that space.
Yes,
and the way in which he's believing that he's safe and taken care of, and this is all for his enjoyment. But that idea, I am in an experience that's all about me, for my enjoyment. Everything's safe, everything's taken care of.
Yeah.
And then how he influences other people because of who he's being. These people who are in the real circumstance begin to like join him where he's at. I think let's all live that way. Yes.
That's, again, one of the things that I took from this. I really, really enjoyed that, this very over-the-top, silly way of illustrating that. I feel like there's some similarity, although I don't know if I could put my finger on it, between this and Groundhog's Day. That Bill Murray has, that's another version of him being on the surface just ridiculous and funny. Like, I think Bill Murray and Jim Carrey have more overlap in the choice of movies that they do and the scripts that they say yes to than some people think. Because fans don't, like, some Bill Murray fans don't like Jim Carrey and vice versa. But I think, like, Jim Carrey has a track record of picking movies where there's something poignant and meaningful and spiritual in here. And Bill Murray does it too. I think his stuff might be a little more subtle. Certainly not everything. But some of his movies, they do have this subversive, be the fool, live in the moment, say yes to things. It held up. It's so silly. And I really like that. I like how silly it was.
Yeah. I definitely had to like shift into the pacing. It reminded me quite a lot about other movies that I love, like Noises Off and Soap Dish.
Yes,
And
it's got a
Slapstick.
Noises Off flair for sure.
Yeah. And it's essentially, it's not like an entire movie of puns, but it's an entendre movie.
Yes.
Like everything means another thing.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows what the hell we're talking about, which is so like life. We think that we have an agreement about what the words mean, and we think that we're all living in some sort of reality, but everybody's in their own hallucination of the world. And I freaking loved it. If I'm gonna watch a Fool movie, I guess it does make sense. I also enjoy Steve Martin as the Fool. I mean, it must have been the jerk.
The jerk.
Okay.
That was it.
We got there. Yay.
Yep. No, that's another perfect example. And that one arguably is a better movie, I would say, than this one. But I like them both. The jerk is definitely feels a little more indie. This one feels a little more accessible. Like this is the kind of movie my mom would have laughed at a lot. She probably did if we watched it together. I don't remember. But yeah, I really enjoy it, and I like it as that there really is something that you learn about that treat everything like a game, and the confidence that you bring to the situation and the playfulness. I love your point about the safe universe. Like that was the assumption that he had, was that no matter what's going on, I'm safe. This is all going to be okay, and the universe has my best interests in mind. And that's not. I don't really believe that's true. I just believe that most of the time, if you operate as if that's true, life tends to work out better for you. Like, even to go back to The Power of One, he said, but that's you're giving them false hope. And he says, isn't that better than no hope at all?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think the world does feel better when we just believe that everything is working out for us. And I get that there are, I mean, the problematic of like egocentrism of like deciding that, operating like everything is yours to manipulate, and just deciding that the world is safe. And there's a difference about how you show up with that belief that is, I don't know how to articulate the difference necessarily, but the willingness to participate and be open is different than trying to maneuver and manipulate the world to your own means.
It does feel more like an improv scene where the point is you're giving something and you're receiving, but you're not trying to take over. It's not all about you.
Yeah.
You're still trying to make the scene go somewhere.
Totally.
And in theater, there is this intention that everyone has for the show, like to put on a show, and it's for the audience and it's for the story,
And he kept talking about that. It was really important to him to be doing the best scene possible. He's like, I could be doing better. Let me try this again a different way.
Yeah, and he'd be like, no, do we have to go down that road? What if we did this one? And like, again, to think about life that way and be like, I could be the bad guy or I could be the good guy. I love how flexible that is. It's great.
Yeah, I almost want to watch it again now that we've agreed that this is a potentially, hidden in a movie no one's watched, which is maybe the theme of our last several months. Is like, we're watching movies that are not acclaimed.
Yeah.
Hidden a movie that no one's watched in a long time could be the entire meaning of life and a philosophy for showing up and having your life be a great experience.
My argument is I think that's what Bill Murray meant. I don't think that was that's just us reading too much into it. I could totally be wrong. But from what I understand about Murray and his philosophical inclinations, I would not be surprised if he thinks about those themes in that movie and he's like, yeah, that's why I made it, because there's something, it's silly and fun and playful and hilarious, but it's also got something going on. And we feed on that. That's why people like movies that have substance to them, and why so many cartoon like the Simpsons and other movies that are cartoons for adults, they have that moment at the end where there's a moral to the story. It's a morality play, and that one has a complicated morality, but I think a lot of people just watch it and go, well, that was a stupid, silly movie. Maybe it's more. I guess that's definitely our motto, isn't it?
Yeah. All of the stupid, silly things could be you taking playfulness seriously.
Well, anything else real quick?
Well, okay, I may not talk about it too long, but I watched this Apple TV show called For All Mankind.
I heard about this. This is the one where what if the Ruskies got there first?
Yeah, if the Russians got to the moon before the US. A reimagined history. I am really excited about this specific this format of reimagined history. What is it? Man on the High Tower is another something like that. This one is gorgeous and fascinating and really fun. I don't know what else to say about it. We just watched the NASA program during this like Cold War era playing out just slightly differently and augmented. And I love it. It's got the guy
from Altered Carbon.
Yeah. Who every time I watch him in something new, he talks funny each time. I was like, it gets funnier. He gets his talking just weirder and like, where is that human been? Where is he from?
I like that. I like that actor. I think he does a good job. He was even in the rebooted RoboCop, which was not good, but he was fine.
There are a lot of standout performances in this show too.
I have a recommendation for you, but it's not necessarily a movie we need to talk about on the show, although we can. Check out on Netflix Bo Burnham's new comedy special.
Okay.
Called Inside. Several boxes of tissues.
Yeah. I have heard some things.
It's really good. And it captures a moment in time. It's better to watch it now than watch it in 6 months because it's really about coming off of what we've been doing. And it's my quick sell on it is I think that Bo realized at some point in making this that sharing his own personal journey through this last year-ish is universal. That by sharing what he was going through very personally, he was like, that's what's going to resonate with everyone else. And everyone's going to go, even though I'm not going through exactly that, that's how I feel. And that's what it captures is, I think, what I've heard from a lot of people is, oh my God, this just captures how I feel so much. And he's just back to form. Is what I would say. Like, I didn't care for his last special quite as much. I think What is probably one of the greatest comedy specials of all time. This is probably not quite as good as What, but it's really good.
Nice. Okay.
Really, really good. And very timely.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to go watch the Bo Burnham.
Okay. And then we'll pick a movie or two before our next show to watch because we did good this time. We got 3 in one show.
I know. And they all had thematic funness. Maybe people will watch it. Maybe they'll take it.
All right. Well,
all right.
TV deeply, everybody.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.